I don't like the middle part. I can't do it. It just makes my head look like a cone. Doesn't it?
Cone head?
Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Today we are going to be talking about my favorite setting powders. Now this video came to be because, as you guys probably know, the whole Givenchy powder that was like amazing has been reformulated and now there's mica in it, it's talc free, but now it's like shiny. And so when that happened, because that happens to be one of my favorite setting powders, when that came out, I was like, oh, son of a gun. Like, we need to go and find a good setting powder to replace that. And then I was like, okay, let me take 5 steps back and recognize that in my large collection of makeup, I probably already have setting powders that are wonderful. I don't need to go out and buy new ones. So this is my list of setting powders that I rely on very, very much. And I wanted to bring them to you. One of the things that I want to be really upfront about is that I am not someone who worries about talc in my setting powders. So if you are someone that does worry about that, just recognize that that is not part of my list of like concerns with setting powders. I am not very much an ingredients person. Those of you that were, you know, ever exposed to my lack of chemistry knowledge, like recognize that like, yeah, she's not into the whole chemical thing. But what I do care about very much is performance. So if you're interested in hearing about like the top performing setting powders, keep watching. The first one that I wanted to start out with are for my super oily girls, and I have 2 options for you. So I have from the drugstore, this is Kimchi Chic Puff Puff Pass Powder. So I have actually talked about this translucent setting powder before. It is one of my favorites. It is incredibly fine, but it is more of a mattifying powder. So if you are more on the oily side, this is going to keep you relatively like what I would consider pore-free and oil-free for the entire day. This is something that I use for like weddings, definitely does not have like issues with flash photography, really great formula. The other one is from Huda Beauty, and this is in Sugar Cookie. This one I don't reach for as much, but it is still a phenomenal formula, only just because the formula of this one, instead of being like a little bit more of that like translucent kind of a color, is like straight up kind of like white. So I do get worried about this showing up in cameras, like if you're doing flash photography, but on a regular basis, if you just want something that's really going to smooth out your skin, you can bake with this product if you like. This is a really nice formula that I would definitely recommend. The only thing about this as well is that it is fragranced. So it has like a light, like sweet floral scent to it. So if you are nervous about scents or you're sensitive to them, then I would recommend more of the Kimchi Chic. And I believe this is actually cheaper than the Huda Beauty. So kind of a win-win. Now for my friends who might be a little bit more on the dry side, a setting powder is not something that you should skip, okay? Even though your skin is super dry, you can still set your makeup down and make sure that it's going to last all day long. But in that case, I would actually recommend a formula that is going to be a little bit more hydrating. And for that, I would highly recommend the Dominique Cosmetics setting powder. So they actually have multiple shades of this. I obviously just have the translucent one. This is very similar to the Kimchi Chic, but this actually has, I believe, hyaluronic acid in it. So this is something that's actually going to keep your skin more hydrated. This is a formula that I really like to use during the winter time, because obviously when it's super dry, I'm like, well, maybe I don't want to be like super dry, and I want something that's going to keep my skin feeling really nice and healthy. This is the setting powder that I use during the winter, and I love it so good. Now, for those of you that might be a little bit more, like if you have more mature or dry skin, or something that just needs like a little bit of like a lift in a way, so like your skin, maybe it's looking just a little bit dead during the winter or something like that, like it just, you know how like winter skin looks like, it's just not as like healthy and like luminous as like the summer, then I would highly recommend checking out Hourglass's Ambient Lighting Powders. Now these are some of the best. This is an old school favorite, but when I tell you guys that these powders are the best, this is actually a new one. I straight up finished one of these recently and like tossed out and purchased a new one. This is going to give you literally the most beautiful glow to your skin that is like incredibly natural looking. So like it's not like you're slapping highlight on your face, which I do on a regular basis. But this is something that's really gonna just give your skin like that healthy, youthful glow to it that is still a powder, which is really incredible. So if you're someone where you're like trying to go to a wedding, or you like need your makeup to last for a really long time, so you're like, I want a full coverage mattifying foundation that's gonna last all day long on my face, but then you recognize that your skin starts to look a little bit dead, this is a wonderful powder to literally just lightly dust on top of that foundation. It will bring back all of the luminosity in your skin. Like, these are wonderful powders. Would highly recommend checking those out. Now, also from Hourglass as well, they do have their own like translucent setting powder as well that is a loose powder. I actually really like this as well. First of all, want to compliment Hourglass always on their packaging. This just feels like expensive. This is really, really nice. And the way that this is formulated, and you can see it again, very similar to the Dominique Cosmetics powder, but again, if you're just shopping at like Sephora or something, this might be a little bit easier or more accessible for you to get. This is definitely a powder that I would recommend for those of us that have a little bit more of the drier, mature skin as well. So this is, again, a powder that I reach for in the winter time. And again, I love the packaging with just like the H that you can see in the center where the powder comes out. It does get a little bit messy every once in a while, but the way that this powder sets down your face, blurs out your pores, makes everything stay in place. This is also one you can use under your eyes. This is really, really good. The next category that I want to talk about are setting powders that I specifically use to set down concealer. So I do not actually put the Kimchi Chic setting powder underneath my eyes. I prefer this one for like all over the face. For underneath the eyes, I feel like there's a couple more things that I want from my setting powder that like my all over face setting powders are not going to give me. The first one is it has to be like the most finely milled powder so that it doesn't settle into my creases, as you can see right here. And then the other thing that's really important is that if I can, I'd like to find a formula that is a little bit more on the brightening side, because again, with those dark circles, man, of aging, like I've just really found that I need something that's a lot more brightening underneath the eyes. So I have a couple options here. And the best part about this is all three of these are extremely reasonably priced. These are all drugstore options. So the first one, as you guys can imagine, is obviously the Covergirl Advanced Radiance Powder. I talk about this all the time. I can't help it. I'm sorry, but it is literally the best. This thing travels with me everywhere I go. When I need to do any kind of event makeup, this is what I use. It is literally the best powder. You can see that like it doesn't even pick up a lot on the back of your finger because of the fact that like every time you pick this up, it's the perfect amount for setting your under eyes. Like I'm not someone who overly, like I don't bake my under eyes because to me, I'm like, I just don't want to suck out any of the hydration. Like if there's hydration underneath my eyes, I'm going to leave it there. So I'm not a big baker. So I really like this formula just because it is going to give me that perfect amount of powder where it's going to set everything down and make it look really, really smooth, but it's not going to like, I'm not going to look like a husk after, you know what I mean? So I really like this powder. Now, the next one from the drugstore that you can also pick up is from No. 7. Nobody ever actually talks about this powder, but this is their Lift and Luminate Triple Action Finishing Powder, and I have this in the shade Light. You can obviously see how much I like this. When I finish this, I am definitely for sure 1000% going to get another one of these. This is very similar to the Covergirl Advanced Radiance Powder, where it's literally so finely milled that it sets down your under eyes beautifully. But again, because it is a pressed powder, when you pick up this formula on a brush, it doesn't feel like you're picking up too much powder to the point where things start to look really cakey underneath your eyes. So I really, really like this powder. I don't like this one as an overall like face powder because again, just because it is a little bit more of that like luminous effect, I'm like, okay, my oily skin here doesn't really need that extra hit of hydration, but I definitely need it underneath my eyes. Now, going along with that whole concept as well, Colourpop Pretty Fresh Powder. Oh my God, this is so good. I have this in the shade Light 6. I accidentally dropped it and cracked it. Sorry. But I actually did just buy a new one of this because I'm obviously running out of this product as well. This is another one that is phenomenal for setting underneath your eyes. It literally has hydrating ingredients in this powder as well. And so it really just kind of keeps your face from looking very cakey underneath. And it just makes everything look really, really fresh, which is literally the name of the product. So as you can imagine, like it's again meant to be more of that like luminous effect. Don't like it all over the face, but love it underneath the eyes. The fourth category of powders that I have are for touch-ups. So these are products that are gonna say, like, let's say you've gotten too oily throughout the day and you need to put a powder on top of it to stop things from looking too shiny. These are really good powders for that. They are all pressed powders, so it's easy to travel with because nobody needs to be spilling like translucent loose powder in your purse because that's just, it doesn't look good, okay? It doesn't look good. Like, it's just never a good thing to have like white powders all over the place. like when you're traveling. So anyway, one of the options is from Vieve. These are the Modern Powder Perfectors. I have this actually in both light and medium. You'll notice that the light actually I've used a lot more, and there's a really good reason for this. I actually really like to put a lighter powder on my T-zone area where I kind of want to brighten my face a little bit. Like, I think it just helps with the dimension of my face. So I'll tend to use this to really set down like my T-zone area, and then I'll use the medium to set down like the rest of my face, like underneath my bronzer if this part has gotten too oily and I need to take that shine away. This is what I'll use there. But as you can tell, obviously from a usage perspective, like the light tends to get used a little bit more for touch-ups. Another option from, you know, just Sephora or Nordstrom or something like that is the Charlotte Tilbury powder. This is, oh my God, so good. So this is the Airbrush Flawless Finish powder. This is very similar to the Vieve powder, I'll be totally honest with you guys. The only thing that I would say is different is the packaging, like, because this is obviously a lot more of a flat package, and so I really, really like this powder. You can tell obviously by how much I've used it. Similar concept here where I have both the light and the medium shade. This is what I bring for wedding makeup. So for any of the brides out there, if you're looking for something where you're like, I'm gonna have a really long day between like the ceremony, the first look, the whatever it is that you have going on, like bring this powder with you, hide it in your bouquet with a tiny little brush, because it'll be amazing to have on hand, because you really can literally just blot all of the oil out of your skin and look flawless, literally flawless again, right? Like no pores, nothing in all of your photos. The third option, I would say this one is going to be something that's like a little bit more lifelike, not as mattifying. So this one is going to give you more real skin versus like setting your face down to like perfection. So if you're someone where you're like, I'm a very light natural makeup wearer, I just want a powder that I can kind of bring along just in case I need to do a couple of touch-ups, but I'm not looking to look like Barbie skin type, like, you know, skin. Like if that's not your vibe, then I would highly recommend checking out the Kosas Cloud Set powders. These are really, really nice. This one is in the shade Cushiony, so you can tell it's a little bit more of like that all over the face powder, because again, right, like if I'm trying to do my T-zone, like I need mattifying, but this I really like for like right here on my face. This one I'll take actually a brush that is a little bit more dense in the way that the bristles are packed, and I'll take this and stipple it on to my face. Kosas has done a really nice job with this powder, honestly. Like this is something that's going to give you just like a little bit of a mattified look, but not so hardcore that it looks lifeless. So this is a really, really nice powder. And again, I like how sturdy this packaging is, because again, when you're traveling and stuff and like things are like bouncing around and like your purse and stuff, you need something that you can trust is not going to just crumble and fall apart in your purse. So would highly recommend this powder. And that, my friends, is all of the reasons why I do not need to go out and buy all of the different kinds of setting powders to try and replace my Givenchy powder, because I already have a lot that are amazing. So that's why I wanted to make this video with you. It's a little bit of a shop your stash to just be like, okay, realistically, what do I have in like my kit? I say kit, but it's like a full wall of makeup. So anyway, I hope you guys found this video informational. If you liked it, please feel free to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and I will see you guys in next time's video. Again, I mentioned last week my filming schedule is going to be all out of whack because I'm traveling, so just be aware of that. Also, feel free to follow me over on Instagram if you haven't already. I do post reels over there on a semi-regular basis. I haven't posted yet this week, so note to self. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. See you next time.